Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Getting Past the Premium GPP. Happy to have with us today a good friend of mine, Andy Neary. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Solid.
Yeah, no complaints here. So this will be a fun conversation, man. I love what you guys are doing today on the marketing side. And obviously you've been in the industry, you've been on the sales side. We've worked together for a long time. So really excited to get your perspective on kind of where the industry's at, where it's going from a marketing perspective, et cetera. But, jumping into that, where do you kind of feel like the industry's at today as it relates to just marketing, lead generation in general?
Yeah, and I just realized my mic isn't working, so I'm just going to keep going.
Sound good.
Okay, good. Where is lead gen going?
It looks good.
It looks good, right? I'm like, but it's not working. Where do I see it going? Let's start with where it is. 2020 changed everything. And the way we market in this industry has changed forever. And one of the challenges I see in this industry is too many people don't want to look forward because they're still proud of the past. They're proud of how they built their business 25 years ago. And they're not understanding that things have changed and they're never going back.
Yeah.
And as you guys know, right, it's harder to build a relationship today than it's ever been. Back in the day, we'd go play golf, buy them lunch, buy them dinner. And that's still happening a little, but it's not like it was. So marketing today, where it's going is it's the place you have to go to grab attention if you want to get any attention from your prospects. And the one biggest change for our industry is the online form of marketing, right? Yeah. Marketing in our industry historically has been direct mailers, marketing slicks, billboards, right? And that's actually a really good point, Elliot. That's a great analogy because when you think about a billboard in our industry, I think about the State Farm agent, right? When you drive through a town. What is a billboard? It's expensive. The whole purpose is you put a billboard up on the side of a highway, and based on the highway and the road traffic is what determines how much it's going to cost.
Yeah.
But you don't know who drives by. You're hoping people look at it, and you have no control of the message.
Yeah.
Marketing today, online marketing, let's just think of social media. In our industry, if it's business to business, think LinkedIn. It's free. You get to pick the message. You can target the audience and you can get a lot of people to see your message, as many people as would drive by that billboard in a vehicle. And so that's why we need to get more advisors, professionals in our industry understanding that, because online marketing is here to stay and it's only going to get bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're spot on when it's harder than ever to build a relationship. I think people are just busier than ever. They're getting hit with so many different things in their business and their personal lives. It just seems like the attention span is so much shorter, and so it's difficult to get people to commit to a lunch or to, some of those, what we would consider in the past relationship building activities. They're still very important in building a deep relationship. That the importance of that hasn't changed. It's just, how do we go about it? Right.
Here's the beautiful part about it. Back in the day when you would go to do those activities to build a relationship, right? The only time you were building said relationship was you were in front of that prospect.
Yep.
The beautiful thing today is you can use a platform like LinkedIn or email campaigns, things like that, to build that relationship before you ever meet them. Imagine walking into a prospecting meeting with a prospect who already feels like they know you and you haven't met them before.
Yeah.
That's something we can do today that we couldn't do 10 years ago.
Well, let's face it too. I mean, people are looking for different relationships than they had before, specifically in our industry. Elliot and I talk about this all the time, right? It's we're moving at a fairly rapid pace out of the risk management space, being centered around a more transactional relationship, specifically in the higher end of the market, right? Like it is so much more driven around being that trusted advisor. And so that shapes, I would assume, so much of how you go target your target prospects and how you communicate with them.
Well, and I was talking to Elliot offline about this. When I look at marketing, we look at it from a very practical standpoint, not the scientific metrics, blah, blah, blah. We look at it from, okay, it comes down to four things. Who are you talking to? What are you saying to them? How are you saying it to them? And where are you saying it to them?
Can I jump in? Can I ask you a question on that?
Yeah.
Of those four, like particularly the first one, who are you talking to? How much do you see in our industry that producers or agencies as a whole actually take the time to nail that down?
Very few. I thought you were going to ask which one's the most important.
I was thinking about it, but
the
I
who
just
are
went
you
to that one.
talking to is the most important, because if you don't know who, the what are you saying, how are you saying it, you're wasting time and money.
Yeah.
You have to know who you're talking to. And to your point, Elliot, very few agencies take the time to do that because they think they're for everybody. But at the end of the day, you're not. At the end of the day, there is a specific kind of prospect that is the best fit for you. You guys know this is why you guys have exploded. You know exactly who is the right fit for E&I. And to get clear on that, the easiest way to think about this, and this was the game changer for people, is when we help people define their ideal prospect, there's two ways to do it. There's demographics and there's psychographics. Demographics is how the three of us have been taught to identify prospects, right? Industry, size, location, number of employees, whatever. But that alone can't define an ideal prospect. Psychographics is, what do they believe? What do they stand for? What do they
Probably
think?
more important.
That's where the gold is, because if you go look at your best clients, it's not because of the demographic. It's because you two are probably in alignment with them on the psychographics. And that's, to answer your question, almost no one in our industry takes the time to do that. The ones that do are the ones that are absolutely growing at an exponential rate right now.
Well, I think it's a bit of a trap in our industry, right? Like, we're in an industry that is a very positive thing, is everybody has to buy insurance, right? And that's a good thing. It was massive, market that we can go target. But I think that also creates this issue where, because I can sell something, or everybody has to buy a product I have, I can just go talk to anybody about it. And that just leads to a very generic message that's not compelling, that, we can't get people excited about, create urgency, can't create consistency around it. All of those things that are way and far more important than the product you're actually selling.
Totally agree with that. When you look at what makes, two questions I ask work agencies when we do workshops with them: what makes you unique? And what do you do better than anybody in your market?
I like those.
When you know those two answers, here's what happens. The reason I ask those questions is what makes you unique is the likability side. Because to win business today, remember, it's harder to build relationships than it ever has been. To win business, you got to be likable too.
Yeah.
What do you do better than anybody in your industry or in your market? That's the credibility side. And I think to win business today, you got to have both. You cannot have one without the other, because if I just establish credibility with you guys and you don't know me, you're not sure if you like me, it's going to be hard to hire me.
Yeah.
Likewise, if I establish all the likability with you, but I have no credibility, you won't take me seriously enough to hire me.
Yeah, that's true.
And there's so much that you have to do. Like, you can't just make this crap up on the fly, right? And I'll give you an example. Like, I would say, like, there are certain things that go into being a trusted advisor in today's world, right? And integrity's one, where you need to be able to communicate that to a prospect in a certain way. Like, you do what you say you're going to do and everything else. But do me a favor, Andy, demonstrate integrity for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't stand up and do that. And that's exactly what you're talking about with the likability piece. It's like, stand up and demonstrate likability for me. You can't do that.
No.
So it truly is like, it's the stuff below the surface, but it's got to be there. And that's why this topic is just so important.
Well, not only that question of what makes you unique, it's your story, right? Whether it's you as an individual producer or you as the agency, the what makes you unique is your story. And if there's one thing that your competition can't steal or replicate, it's your story. And I think that's where producers get lost in today's marketing of insurance. Is this has been an industry that lacks patience. Everybody wants a quick win. And so they're going to do anything they have to do to win business. They'll copy whoever they have to copy to win business, right? It's, give me that script John's using because I think it could work for me. When in real life, you just pause and say, okay, well, hold on a second. Let's take a look at what makes us unique. What do we do better than anybody else? Because what do you do better than anybody else is that's where your zone of genius is.
Mm.
And when you can sit in your zone of genius, you're unstoppable.
Yeah.
And when I look at what you, if I, you know, E&I, you guys got Encore, right? That's something, even though that's a process, it's not even a product. What you did that was genius is you productized your process.
Mm-hmm.
There is not another agency in America, let alone Omaha, that can say we have Encore.
You can't replicate it. Yeah.
That's how you differentiate yourself in this market.
No, I couldn't agree more. And there's so much opportunity to do it anymore too. I mean, because of all of those things that we are talking about, it by going down this path that Andy's talking about, you can stand out from the pack, right? And I think, you know, our industry has gotten to not only be the quick win, as you mentioned, but it's like we're getting hit with all these efficiency factors, right? And not only do clients want things fast and they want it easy, which is true, but we have to be efficient and we have to be, you know, technology driven and all this stuff, which again is true. But if that's your value prop, or if that's, you know, how you're taking yourself to market, you better have a really good idea of clients that want that experience, right?
Mm.
Because again, if you're staying surface level with that relationship and you're just trying to provide a quick transaction, that's all it's going to be, is
A spreadsheet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we were literally talking about this at lunch, Elliot. You know,
Yeah.
I gave Elliot a couple examples. You know, you're driving through Starbucks and the barista hands you your coffee. You expect that relationship to be very transactional. You're not going to like pull over and then get out of your car and be like, hey, how you doing? And what's going on? Like that's the whole thing, right? If you got on Amazon, which has their, you know, their buying chain dialed for the maximum best experience, you're not going to get a call from somebody on their team that's like, hey, Andy, you know what? I appreciate you ordering that bottle of water today. Like, how's life, man? How can we add more value to you? You expect that relationship to be transactional, and they've designed it like that to create what their value is, to help supplement what their value is. And we're so unintentional with that in our industry as a whole, right? We've got to match like somebody's buying experience and what they want from you to our messaging and our marketing and who we're going after and why and how we can add value to them.
Well, and there's so much to unpack in what you just said, Ryan, because I think the biggest change that happens when you realize not everybody's a fit for us. We know who the best type of client is for us. You start going out to the market and interviewing companies to see if they're a fit for you.
Yeah.
Not the other way around, which is what most of our industry does. Go out and just try to win business from everybody. That's why I hate the RFP process, because what is it? You are now becoming part of somebody else's process.
Mm-hmm.
You're being interviewed by somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a process you know is locked in like you guys do, and you know who is the best fit for it, all of a sudden you've got that confidence of saying, we know we're not for everybody, but we're going to go out and find the ones who are, and you're actually interviewing them. And that changes everything for a producer.
100%. And I think that a great analogy for this too, or another way to think about it, is we had Andrew Atkinson on, and you know, he talks about you only have a certain number of seats on the bus, right? So in your book of business, if you're going to do a good job for your clients, a great job, provide them value, you can only do that to a certain number of clients. And depending on the makeup of your book, you know, that could be 60 accounts, could be 100, you know, whatever. But again, at some point you're going to be at capacity. So when you bring somebody on, you want to make sure that they fit exactly the model that you are trying to drive, right? Otherwise, do you want them on your bus? Because every time you build out a process and every time you go to this one, you're going to be like, oh, shoot, this guy likes it this way and I got to do that. And, you know, and
you're spot on. You're spot on, Elliot. I actually, when you said that, you made me think of a acquaintance of mine in the industry, Lee Lewis. He's on the benefit side, possibly one of the smartest guys in the industry. And back in the day when I first met him, he was the national sales director for a very large health insurance TPA.
Okay.
And their whole philosophy was every year they could only hand out 12 gold coins. They could only bring on 12 new groups every year because they knew what they did best. And if they brought in more than that, they would not be able to do what they do best. He would have all 12 of those sold by January 1 And he'd spend the rest of the year
Yeah.
getting ready for the next 12, I have challenged so many agencies to say, what if you went out and sold this as an exclusive thing? What if you went out and said, hey, we can only bring so many on a year? And I have yet one willing to do that because of that fear of there's not enough to go around.
Well, it's FOMO, right? Like fear of missing out, where, well, I got this bird in the hand. I got this one guy that just told me that, he wants his insurance looked at, and geez, this will be a quick win. I can make a little cash.
Be a great
And
account.
yeah, I'll be able to turn it into, what we would call an encore client. And I could go back, and I bet if I had a list, I could show you that 90% of those are not clients of ours. And the 10% that are probably not ones that we've ever been able to get engaged further, because the second you present yourself as a quoting insurance agent, how does that client view you? A quoting insurance agent, just like everybody else. And so if you're trying to differentiate yourself and you have a process you go through to show them that you're an advisor, however you're going to help them, the minute you shortcut that, the minute you're showing them that it's not all that valuable to go through it. And it just destroys that relationship from the start. And now you have a person on your bus that is not a good fit for what you're trying to accomplish. And I love that analogy of just saying in a given year, we're only going to do this many. So if I only have this many, it completely changes everything, because it changes who am I going to target, maybe size wise, could be, demographic or geographic location, assuming you have all the psychographic metrics, dialed in. So it just changes your entire perspective on what you're going to go and do and who you're going to work with and how you're going to work with them.
Yeah. And Ryan, you said it well, Ryan. It's like, if you knew your market, let's talk the benefit side for a second. If you knew your ideal client was in that 50 to 250 space, and then that 10 life opportunity comes in because it's a referral, that's where you have to say no. Say no. We know what our zone of genius is, but it's to your point, Elliot, saying FOMO. This is where advisors they don't know how to say no.
Yeah.
And because I believe it is for the sake of revenue. We all want to make more money. I get it. Yep. But it's that chase of more money has too short-term wins that has too many agencies bringing in business that becomes a pain in the 6 months later.
Certainly, like, compensation plays a factor, right? I mean, I think so much of it's just we've created in this industry in particular, like, nobody thinks about the bottom line. Everyone just thinks about new revenue, right? And that's where it gets sacrificed, is on the back end when we're doing that. But to take it a step further, I mean, if you've got 400 clients and you've been doing a phenomenal job, right? And you got a big book, et cetera, be thinking about it from the standpoint of not only, like, is there room on the bus? Let's say the bus is full. You need to kick somebody out of the seat, right? That's a different, it ups the ante even more, which is where a lot of the struggles come in, because it's like, oh, okay, well, this is another plug for Andrew Atkinson. We were having this conversation. He used the apartment analogy. He's like, you run an apartment complex and you've only got so many units, and they're paying you rent based upon the size of their unit, right? And that's it. Like, unless if you're going to go buy another apartment complex, which is a whole nother profitability conversation and everything else, you've got to take a tenant and boot them to put a new one in. And who are you going to have that conversation with, and how is that going to go? And what's your process for doing that?
Yeah. Right? And I empathize, because I've seen a lot of agencies hit that point where they want to go after a larger business segment, right? Because they've grown to a certain point. Maybe it's $1 million, $5 million, $10 million. So they want to take their small business accounts under a certain revenue amount and either sell it or put it, run it a different way. And it's so hard because those were the businesses they started with.
Yep. And
those were their friends and their families, right? Yeah, and I get it. It's hard. But that's to your point, Ryan. Like, you got to know who is the best fit. I say this all the time, and agencies hate me hearing me say this. I'd much rather have a $500,000 book of business where every client lets me do my best work versus $1 million book of business where half my clients frustrate the heck out of me. And when I see their meeting on the calendar, I start sweating.
Yeah.
And they want that too, as long as you brought them in the right way and communicated
100%
how, what you do, how you do it, et cetera. So let's kind of segue back into marketing, because I really like this conversation gets me juiced up with what you're doing in this space and like how you're doing it. So, I mean, I think we've established kind of where the industry's at. Like moving forward, what do you kind of see, and how are we able to leverage the tools at our disposal to be able to get more, target market growth, if you will?
Again, as I said earlier, I like to keep this practical, right? Let's go back to those 4 questions. First, who are you talking to? Psychographics is the gold. That's where I'll tell you there. When it's who, figure out the people who are aligned with you because of what they think, what they believe. That's your best clients. What are you saying to them? The key there is tell their stories. Don't tell yours. Nobody cares how long you've been in business. Nobody cares how many carriers you have access to. Tell the prospect story. 3, how are you saying it? How are you saying it? Yeah, you got to use video. You got to use article. You got the content portion of this today is used. If you are not viewing your agency today like a content creating machine that happens to sell insurance, you're in trouble. And then the last, where are you saying it? This is the thing that changed my career, guys. And this is the number one thing we teach. You got to create exponential awareness. When the 3 of us came in the industry, we were taught how to pick up a phone and we were taught how to go door to door.
That's hand-to-hand combat.
Hand-to-hand combat, and also known as linear awareness. I can only call one person at a time, and I can only knock on one door at a time. And I just heard this stat recently from one of your Insight partner agencies. It takes 18 calls today to reach one prospect.
Jeez.
Do the math. If I want to reach 10 people, I got to make 180 calls. And if I'm fast, let's say I can make a call a minute, which I can't, but let's say I can. That's 3 hours to reach 10 people. When I could put a LinkedIn post out,
which 98% of them is going to tell you no the first time you call, by the way.
Correct. When instead I could send a good email campaign out to hundreds of people, when I could put out good content on LinkedIn that could hit hundreds of thousands of eyeballs, I could stand on stage and speak to 100 prospects. I could host webinars for dozens, hundreds of, that's how you create awareness today. It's not by picking up the phone 500 times. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying don't do that stuff. Here's the key. Mm-hmm. If you're creating the exponential awareness, it makes your cold calling more effective. Mm-hmm. Because when you pick up the phone and you call that prospect, they know who you are. You have name recognition.
Yeah.
And that matters. And so, Brian, when you ask where it's going, that's the name of the game today, is what are you doing to put a megaphone to your message? And that message has to tell the prospect story, not yours.
Yeah, it's so solid.
I love that. Do you have any, I'm sure you do, I guess, but how do you recommend or coach people in telling their story, not yours? Yeah.
There's a book right here behind my shelf called Building a Story Brand. And it's one of the best marketing books ever written. I'm actually certified as a guide by Story Brand. And what he tells in that book is so practical and simple, but so true. Every story in history has been told this way. There is a character who has a goal, but the goal is being cut off by a problem. And when they know they have a problem, they go seeking a guide with a solution to help them have success and avoid failure. Mm-hmm. Now, the key part of that whole story is you are not the character. Your prospect's the character. You're just the guide. The prospect is Luke Skywalker. You are Yoda. Mm-hmm. But you got to tell stories in that format. Character with a goal who has a problem, who needs a guide with a solution to have success and avoid failure. In your case, solution's Encore, right? That's your solution. Mm-hmm. But what's so funny about this, to go back to what you were talking about, brought with Amazon. Think about this. This was a game changer for me. The buyer's journey. Every buyer takes a journey. Think of what we do with Amazon. Okay. The only reason I go to Amazon to buy something is I know I have a problem. Right? I won't go buy something unless I'm trying to fix a problem. And the problem might be I don't have one of these. Mm-hmm. Well, what do I do when I go to Amazon? I look at all options. Right?
Yep.
Then I start doing my research and I like a specific option. And then when I like a specific option, I go and find which company is the best to give me that specific option. That's how buyers buy. In the insurance world, think about this. My insurance costs are too high. Problem. I'm going to go explore other options. There's an option I really like. Maybe it's captives. Now that I like this specific subject or option called captives, who can do it for me? That is how buyers buy. That's the journey you have to take them through. Here's where this matters. In the insurance industry, 90% of the agencies in America start the journey on the wrong end of the path. They spend all their marketing telling you they are the best for you, the who, when prospects don't even know what their problem is.
I was going to say, like, you haven't mentioned this yet, but one of the biggest things, I'm not certified in StoryBrand, by the way, but like, I think one of the biggest things on the heels of what you're saying that people get wrong is identifying who the hero is.
Yes, they
which
think
is
they're
what
the
you're
hero.
saying. Yeah.
100%. 100%. And but if you just tell stories along that buyer's journey, so when we help agencies create content, we help them build a content strategy. We tell them, you got to start with the basic stuff. Why are your insurance costs going up? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Because they don't know the problem. Mm-hmm. We work in an industry where our buyers don't know what the problem is. They don't know what they don't know. So the more your content, your marketing can focus on the problem, the more you're going to get prospects to take action. Mm-hmm. And the problem is most agencies go look at their marketing. Who is it talking about? The prospect or the agency? The agency.
So true.
No prospect's going to reach out if they don't know what their problem is. And all I hear from you is telling me why you're so great.
It's like so many of the websites you see out there for insurance agents are just billboards. It's like we just took an old medium of marketing and turned it into a digital form of marketing. Right?
Yeah, website. We could spend a whole nother podcast, guys, on websites.
I'm sure.
I mean, we deal with it. It's like, well, who, there's so much to unpack there. We look at our views and, they're not great. And it's like, well, no shit. I mean, who's running if you're running a larger construction company and, you know what those guys do. One day they're in the office and they're doing CFO accounting stuff. And then the next day they're trying to win a new job. And the next day they're in a truck going and picking up an excavator, taking it to another job or whatnot. At what point during those days are they sitting down and Googling who they should, switch their insurance to? Like, that doesn't happen.
Nope. And you just brought up something I want to make sure to hit upon with marketing today, because Ryan, you asked, where is it going? If there's one piece of advice I could give advisors on marketing, it's be searchable. So what does that mean? The largest search engines in the world today are Google and YouTube. And Google owns YouTube.
Yeah.
If you're not leveraging those, you're missing an opportunity, because that's where people go to search for things these days. Some people are video people. I'm a video person, so I go to YouTube. I watch videos. If you don't have a YouTube channel as an agency, I know that goes against the grain. Who would have a YouTube channel in the insurance industry? Well, it's the second largest search engine in the world. People go there to search for things. And that's the whole point, is you want your marketing to be searchable, so that if I Google you, look up your name, look up your agency, and you own page one of Google, you got credibility with me.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to tee this one up pretty easy for you, Andy, because I probably know the answer. But how do I generate content ideas for my YouTube videos?
Well, first of all, nobody has an excuse anymore because of ChatGPT.
This thing is, I was going with
this thing is scary. But how do you create? That's a great question, though, Elliot. Let's even act like AI doesn't exist. Just create videos around content your prospects are looking for. I'll give you a real life example. I'm working with an advisor team in Chicago. They have one advisor who's totally leaned into the content stuff. He created a video that was titled, keyword being titled, "Is self-funding good for my employees?" Very searchable, right? You could actually imagine a employer going to Google and typing that in. Well, they converted it to an article. So it's a video on their YouTube channel. They converted it to an article. Their marketing guy added a little SEO to it. It is now, if you go type, "Is self-funding good for my employees?" in Google right now, it is the first thing that pops up.
Proof. One of the things you did while Elliot's running the Google there is you turned me on to a book called They Ask You Answer.
Yes. That's where I learned the buyer's journey.
being able to understand what problems your clients or prospects have so that you can meet them there with your marketing efforts and whatnot.
Yep. I call it, I don't know if I've coined this term, guys. I'm sure it's been used before, but I
We'll do
think
it today.
one of the best things, one of the best things you can do with marketing today is leverage transparent marketing. What does that mean? Number one, when you share content for prospects, you better share a lot, more than you want to share, more than you're comfortable sharing, because prospects want value today before they're ever going to hire you. And if you share the good stuff and I'm learning from you, yeah, I know your competitors could steal it. Yeah, I know an employer, a prospect could give it to their broker. At the end of the day, they're not going to do that, but you're going to be considered the subject matter expert because you're teaching the most. Now, the other side of transparent marketing, which is really starting to work very, very well, is we all have skepticism of marketing today because most of it's online.
Yeah.
How many times have you gone to download or subscribe to something and you're nervous to hit the subscribe button because you're like, oh, great. What am I going to, what's going to happen when I hit this, right? What if on that landing page, for a specific example, you have a lead generator you're using to try to capture emails, but right next to the form they're going to fill out to download, to subscribe, you have a video that says, hey, click this to learn exactly what's going to happen when you hit subscribe. That's transparent marketing. The more you just tell people what's going to happen, just like when you're onboarding a new client, tell us what's next.
Exactly.
The better, the more credibility you are going to get, because people are so sick of the scam, the spam, and the lack of trust.
People do this, like, not to tangent from marketing. It's a form of marketing, but our process is unique to accommodate just that. Right. I mean, I was having a conversation with a prospect this morning on this same topic. So, we take our prospects through the process, deep discovery, really deep dive what all of their problems are and whatnot. We do that on the wealth management side and the risk management side, whether we're talking about employee benefits or P&C and whatnot. And then we come back and present exactly what we're going to do for them and how we're going to do it, what we're going to charge to do it, where the value's at, addressing the problems that we learned during the discovery phase and whatnot before we ever ask them to make a decision. I was literally on the intro call this morning, and I was on the wealth management side, and I said, our competition's going to say, hey, move your money over to us, and then we'll dive into all the financial planning stuff and right? But it's such a huge lift. You're going to make somebody move a significant amount of money over to you and hope for the best. That's basically what I just heard, right?
Yeah.
And we say, no, keep your money in your bank account the way that it sits right now. And we're going to bring you through a process that ultimately is going to show you what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, how much we're going to charge. We're going to solve your problems. And then at that point, you'll be fully educated to either say, yep, this looks great, I want to engage, or no. So, like, you can do this in not only marketing, but implement it all throughout your business.
I totally agree. I was just thinking about, we just invested in some exponential awareness by hiring a PR team to get on some podcasts. And I just remember when we started the process with them, every email I got from them literally was telling me the next step, to the point of, this email, the purpose of this email is to tell you Kelly is going to email you with this. Like, there was not a surprise. I knew exactly what happened
next.
Feels
so good.
And the trust was off the charts, because I'm not waiting for the shoe to drop. And that's what you're saying, Ryan, is like, especially in the sales side of what we do today, you got to bring a lot of good stuff before anybody's going to hire you. If you think that you can hold the best stuff to your chest until they hire you, you're not going to win business.
No,
I totally agree. Totally agree. Well, we could probably keep going on for a couple hours, Andy. I think maybe we got to have you on again, because there's a lot to digest in this. But I think there's
I'm just glad his PR team reached out to us to get us on the podcast. You know what I mean?
You were number one, right?
Yeah. There you go. So yeah, man, we'll have to line it up with the PR team maybe the next time. So Appreciate the time though. This was awesome.
Yeah,
I think
no, this
everybody's
is-
gonna take some good stuff out of it. So
Anytime I can talk to you guys, man, I enjoy it. It's a good conversation.
yep.
Yeah, man. Really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. It's always a blast.
See you,
bet,
man.
guys. Have a good one.
See ya.